So, you're part of the exhibit here at FIDM. How does it feel?
It's really exciting. I am a huge FIDM fan. I've been to the exhibit a couple of times before as a spectator, and I've had costumes from another show that I was in included years ago. So it's really exciting to be back. And also I'm mostly fangirling out because so many of the shows that I watch are in the room, and it's really exciting to see all those clothes up close and personal.
So, what's been your favorite thing that you've seen so far?
Oh, well, I mean, I walked past Pose on my way in the door, and if that's how I'm starting, I can't even imagine what the rest of the exhibit looks like. All the sparkly things. I'm a bit of a magpie doing what I do, so all of the sparkly things.
Which your show in the exhibit is RussianDoll, which isn't very sparkly.
It's not very sparkly, and that's okay. It's a real New York grounded story, which is not to say that New York isn't sparkly, but there's a little bit of a grittiness to our show, and that's intentional. And so Maxine gets a little sparkle, and some of those party goers get a little sparkle, but our main characters are a little bit more serious. There's some seriousness to what's happening in the story, even though it's also completely ridiculous. So we wanted the clothes to be a little bit more realistic to help the audience have a way into the story. It's an insane premise in a lot of ways.
So, walk us through the three costumes we've got on display.
Absolutely. You've got Maxine in her party getup, and it is a getup. It's a lot of pieces, mostly jewelry, and she's our color rule breaker. I've talked a bit about how the series doesn't have a lot of blue or green in it intentionally, and that's in concert with our production designer and our director of photography. And blue is a color that humans know. Our sky is blue, water is blue, it's calming, it's centering, and our story is none of those things. So we wanted to rule it out as a primary color for our characters to hopefully make things feel a little off. It's not supposed to be off, it's not supposed to hit you in the face, but it might make you feel a little strange when everything in the world is a little bit warm color-wise, but the world isn't warm. So that's one of the things that Maxine just completely hops right over, as Maxine does. She's making her own rules. And so she's in a seafoam green color that wasn't anywhere else in the show. And then she's got way too much jewelry stacked on top of it because she can. And that's how Maxine operates. So we really wanted to support her character with the clothes and have it just feel a little kooky and a little bit out there. And she's clearly drawing all the attention, even though it's not her birthday party. So that's kind of what's going behind her costume in thinking of it. And then Nadia is sort of the opposite. She's distilled her look down to a uniform. She walks everywhere. She doesn't want to carry excess stuff, so everything's got pockets in it so she can stash her stuff. And it's complicated right on down to the lingerie. You get all the way down to the lingerie and there's a crisscross and all these straps that are sort of, stay away and protective. Yeah, she's armored as a character and in the clothes. So we wanted to sort of pull all of those things in. She does actually have two looks. It's a variation on the uniform. And the second one is distinctly color-coded, basically, so that you know right away which story day the character's traveling through.
Because it seems like the only thing that pops with her is the pendant.
That and the red blouse, which you see very little of because she doesn't make it very far in day 2.
Nice. And then, so what was your first exhibit here?
Girls, a few years ago. Yeah, it's crazy to think that show's already been over for a couple of years. And when FIDM reached out, it shocked me because it was a mesh tank top and some bad denim shorts. And it was really fun to see those ridiculously casual clothes in concert with everyone else's clothes from all the other shows that were here that were, beautiful and really considered and on these amazing series. So that was quite a trip. And then actually the museum reached out again for the first season of Orange. Ooh. And we actually sent inmate clothes. Nice. And it's sort of interesting to see a uniform distilled and then in the context of a bunch of civilian wear that's very cool and very interesting. And it sort of was the starkness of seeing uniforms on display in a museum that really drove home that that's kind of what the show is about as well.
And then, so you've worked with Natasha a few times.
Yes. I had the great advantage of knowing Natasha from Orange is the New Black. So we already had a conversation going in just terms of, creative, and she's playing Nikki, very different character, but we already had the dialogue open and, sort of a common language creatively going. And when she told me about RussianDoll, I was like, that sounds amazing. Are you hiring? And then she came back around when it went and said, I'd love you to do the show, and invited me along. And I said, yes, absolutely. And, there weren't scripts at that point, but just knowing how insanely creative and brilliant Natasha is, and then with Leslie involved and Amy Poehler involved, what a dream team of creators, and I'm so lucky to have been included on the team.
If you could pick one character out of everyone you've ever dressed, who's your favorite?
Oh man. I don't think my memory's that good. As you know, Orange is full of characters, so there's always that. But the reason I do what I do is because I get a fresh batch with every project. There's different challenges with every project. There's different stories, and I like complicated stories and complicated characters, and the ones that are the most complicated are sometimes the most interesting to dress. So those are my favorites. Not necessarily one single character, but.
So then, like, how do you kind of help determine the projection of a character?
A lot of that has to do with very deep conversations with the story creators, the showrunners, the series creators, the writers. So they know more about the characters than I do, and doing a lot of research. So breaking that script down to its detail and pulling every bit of information, whether it's the car that they're driving or the time of day or the season that's scripted or action that's scripted, getting as much information together as possible so that I can really support characters that aren't mine. I didn't create them, so I don't necessarily know them intuitively. And so it's information from the actors, from the writers, and then going out in the world and getting visual inspiration as well and tying that all together and hopefully coming up with a look that tells the audience a little bit about what that character's up to.
And then what got you into costume design?
I love storytelling. I always have. I used to steal from my mom's closet and play dress up, but it wasn't about the clothes. It was about the escape. It was about the story that you could tell with those clothes. And I did a lot of theater in high school and in college, and this sort of is the perfect way of pooling all those things together for me and getting to do it every day.
And then what shows do you watch that you don't work on, that you would love
great.
to like?
I have so many unwatched shows on my watch list right now that it's insane. I'm going through now just watching shows as research because I need to see what's out there, and watching for Emmy nominations, and so I'm in the middle of that. Game of Thrones is a big one, all the way through. A couple of Canadian series. It's a little one called Letterkenny, which is hilarious. Pitter-patter, let's get at her. That one, most of the shows that are in here that are also nominated are really inspiring. I love a good costume drama. Downton Abbey coming back as a film is not a bad thing. And then I was just watching Pose on the plane because I was dying to see that, and this is the first moment I've had to get to it. Turns out when you make television, it's really hard to watch a lot of television because you're working too many hours.
Awesome. And then are you working on season 2 yet for RussianDoll?
It's been picked up, but it hasn't gone back into production quite yet. So sitting on the edge of my seat for that one. And then I'm working on a CW series in the meantime. Nice. It's just started up, so I'm just getting my hands wet.
See what it is?
We haven't even started shooting yet, so it's a little early.
So it's not the Gossip Girl reboot?
Is there a Gossip Girl reboot?
I don't know. Could be.
Oh, not that I'm aware of.
Awesome.